Hey guys, welcome to our video. So in our video we will explain about the type of motor and application of motor and so much more. So my name is Daniel Shafiq and my matrix number is B0819102114. So my other friend will introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Muhammad Afiq bin Ahmad Fauzi and my matrix number is B0819100063.
Hello, my name is Muhammad Aiman bin Ismail and my matrix number is B0819100054.
Okay guys, let's go to our first introduction of motor. Okay, so let's go.
An AC motor is an electric motor driven by an alternating current. The AC motor commonly consists of two basic parts: an outside stationary stator having coils supplied with alternating current to produce a rotating magnetic field, and an inside rotor attached to the output shaft producing a second rotating magnetic field. The rotor magnetic field may be produced by permanent magnets, reluctance saliency, or DC or AC electrical windings. In this video, we will go to learn different types of AC motors and their uses. Electric motors are basically two types, one DC motor and another AC motors. DC motor classification we will describe in another video, and this video link in description below. AC motor is two types, one synchronous motor and two asynchronous motor. Asynchronous or induction motor is also two types, single phase motor and three phase motor. Synchronous motor. These motors have the rotor rotating at the same speed as the speed of rotation of the stator current. In other words, we can say these motors don't have slip with respect to the stator current. They are sometimes used not to drive the load but instead act as synchronous condenser to improve the power factor of the local grid to which it is connected to. This kind of motors are used even in high precision positioning devices like modern robots. They can also act as stepper motors. Asynchronous motor. The most common form of motor which is used in everyday life, from pumping water up the overhead tank to power plant boiler feed pumps. The motors are very flexible to use and matches the load demand almost for everything. The most widely used induction motors are very important for many industries due to their load-bearing capacity and flexibility. They are generally used for various types of pumps, compressors, and acts as a prime movers for many machineries. Single and three-phase motor. AC motors can find their usage in two forms based on their power supply: single-phase motor and three-phase motor. The single-phase motors are generally found their use in low power requirements or domestic appliances like ceiling fans, mixer, grinders, portable power tools, etc. The three-phase motor are generally found for high power requirements like power drives for compressors, hydraulic pumps, air conditioning, compressors, irrigation pumps, and many more. Dear sir, thanks for watching the video. For more update, please subscribe to our channel Learning Engineering, and to get notification, please press the bell icon.
Now let's see what are the different applications of induction motor. As I told that these are the most widely used machine in the industries and they have enormous applications. To name a few, I have mentioned here the few applications. Like for example, they are used in electric train engines. To drive the engines in the electric train, we use three-phase induction motor. Similarly, they can also be used for cooling fans that are used to cool large machines. So as you can see here the cooling fans are being used in case of a transformer, and these cooling fans are being run with the help of three-phase induction motor. There is another application where they are used in chimneys at the power plants. And we know the function of chimneys. They are basically to exhaust or to remove the unwanted or poisonous gases and fumes from the power plants, and that is being also done with the help of induction motor. A very familiar application is in the case of printing machines. So here also the printing machines are being run with the help of three-phase induction motor. As well as they are used in rolling mills. They can also be used for large capacity exhaust fans. Now you can see here, these are the exhaust fans which is generally being used in industries to remove the unwanted gases, and here also induction motors are used. Then this you might have seen the cranes which are being used to lift equipments, and here also these cranes are being operated with the help of three-phase induction motor. Hoists, this we generally see near the construction areas, and these are also being operated by the three-phase induction motor. A very common example is the lifts or the elevators, which we often come across in apartments, in malls, and in many other places. So they are also being operated or run through the three-phase induction motors. So these are few applications which I have mentioned, but there are other n number of applications of three-phase induction motor.
Three-phase induction motor faults and their causes. Generally, two types of induction motors are used in our industry, such as wound rotor and squirrel cage rotor, but their faults are almost same. Here we have classified these faults in three types, but these are further subdivided. Number 1, electrical faults. Number 2, mechanical faults. Number 3, environmental faults. Electrical faults. These faults are further subdivided into 7 types, such as single-phasing fault. Single-phasing fault is occurred when any one phase of supply voltage is getting lost, because 3 phases voltage supply is must require for normal working of 3-phase induction motor. Due to this fault the motor could be burned or heat up. Reverse phase sequencing fault. Reverse phase sequencing fault is occurred when any one phase of 3-phase voltage supply is reversed. Means the phase order of supply voltages are swapped. Due to this fault the direction of rotation of motor has changed. Under or over supply voltages fault. This fault is occurred when supply voltages are under or over the specific limit. The limit of 3-phase AC supply voltages is 380 to 440 volts. So when supply voltages are crossed this limit, then motor could be burned or heat up. Overload fault. This fault is occurred when motor is overloaded. Means the higher load is connected at output side of motor. And due to this load motor could be heat up or excessive vibration. Earth fault. Earth fault is occurred when any one phase of supply voltages is connected to the housing of the motor, then motor is totally shorted. In this condition when anyone will touch this motor then he will feel the heavy shock. Beside this, the motor would take over current that could be dangerous for induction motor. Inter-turn short circuit fault. Inter-turn short circuit fault is the such type of fault when two turns of same phase or different phases are short circuit. During this fault the motor could be totally damaged, or coils of that specific phase could be damaged. Crawling fault. Crawling fault is basically an electromechanical fault in 3-phase induction motor. This fault is occurred when motor is fully loaded with full supply voltages, then it does accelerate but it runs nearly 1/7 of its synchronous speed. This specific phenomenon of induction motor is called crawling. Mechanical faults. Mechanical faults are such types of faults which are generally occurred in internal housing of 3-phase induction motor. These faults are further subdivided into 3 types, such as broken rotor bar fault. The squirrel cage induction motor consists of rotor bars and shorted end ring. If these bars are damaged or partially cracked, then this type of fault is called rotor broken bar fault. There are so many reasons for occurring this fault, but it has mainly observed that this fault is occurred due to manufacturer defect. Because during brazing process non-uniform metallurgical stress may occur in rotor bars, which may lead the rotor bars failure during the rotation of rotor. Broken rotor bar fault is shown in figure. Rotor mass unbalance fault. If we concentrate on the construction of induction motor, then we can easily know that the rotor of induction motor is placed inside stator bar, and it rotate coaxially with stator. In heavy motors, it is centrally aligned with stator, and its axis of rotation are also same with the geometrical axis of stator. So the air gap between inner of the stator and outer of the rotor is same. Similarly, if this air gap is not same, then the situation which is referred to eccentricity would be occurred. In this eccentricity situation, the rotor fault would be occurred, that is called rotor unbalanced fault. Bearing fault. In three-phase induction motor, two sets of bearings are installed inside of motor housing, for the supporting the motor shaft. The main purposes of these bearings are, to rotate the motor shaft freely and reduce the friction. They consist of an outer and inner ring which is called races and a set of rolling elements which is called balls. The balls are fixed in an inner and outer side of ring and they reduce the friction of shaft. The friction could be further reduced by the lubrication of these balls. Sometime the balls, outer or inner ring of bearing is damaged due to any physical problem, then the fault is occurred. This fault is called bearing fault, and due to this fault, the motor totally jammed or struck. Motor bearing fault is shown in figure. Environmental fault. In three-phase induction motor, different faults could be occurred simultaneously, and, in these faults, environmental fault is also so much important. Induction motor surrounding environment such as ambient temperature and moisture etc. affect on the performance of induction motor. These factors reduce the performance of induction motor. Beside this, the vibration in induction motor that could be due to any reason such as not properly installed also affect the performance of induction motor. So during the installation of three-phase induction, this factor should be kept in mind.
Three-phase induction motors are the most commonly used AC motors. With its ability to produce high torque with simple construction, relative low cost, and robustness, this motor gets high popularity. The basis for this induction motor is the RMF, which is built in the stator. The rotor, the moving part of the machine, consists of conductor bars with end caps on each side. That's why we have the appearance of a stroke. Therefore, this motor also has stroke action. As the stator magnetic field rotates, the voltage is induced between the bars on the rotor. As the rotor bars are shorter than the stator, there is a flow path of flow current.
Different speed control methods of induction motor are explained below. Following are the main two types of controlling arrangement which need to consider by controlling induction motors. Speed control with respect to stator side of the induction motor. Speed control with respect to rotor side of the induction motor. The speed control of induction motor by considering to control on stator side can be also subdivided into several speed controlling methods such as by changing the supply voltage of the motor, changing the stator pole numbers of the motor, changing the frequency of the supply side of the motor. The speed control of induction motor by considering to control on rotor side can be subdivided into several speed controlling methods such as adding an external resistance into rotor side circuit, applying cascade connection, injecting EMF into rotor side circuit of the motor.
To reverse a three-phase motor, you just swap any two power leads and the motor will run in the opposite direction. To reverse a three-phase motor using contactors, you just run one set of wires straight through one contactor and a parallel set of wires through another contactor where you swap one set of wires. When this contactor is engaged, the motor turns one way, and when this contactor is engaged, it rotates the other direction. You can swap either the line or the load wires, not both of course, but most folks seem to like to swap the wires on the load side of the contactor to keep things clean and consistent. Well, that looks simple enough, but there's a problem. What happens if you accidentally engage both contactors? Well, now you're shorting out 2 of the 3 phases of your power system, and that usually makes bad things happen. The way you prevent that is to add interlocks. The quickest and easiest way is to add a mechanical interlock like this Fuji module. When one contactor pulls down one side of this interlocking device, the other side gets locked up and can't be pulled down. When the other side's pulled down, the original side is locked up. If the coil's energized at exactly the same time, the 2 sides will bind and neither will activate. But the odds of that happening are slim because usually one slips ahead of the other. To install this mechanical interlock, you just insert it between the 2 contactors. This Fuji interlock module even comes with a spacer that locks the 2 contactors together so the interlock stays coupled to the contactors. Now, when one contactor engages, the mechanical interlock prevents the other contactor from moving. And when the other one's engaged, the original contactor can't move. Perfect. The other way to interlock contactors is with an electronic interlock. You add a normally closed aux contact to each contactor and wire them like this. So if this contactor is active and this aux contact opens, there's no way that coil power can get to the other contactor. Likewise, if this guy's active, coil power can't get to this contactor. Do you need both types of interlocks? Well, that depends on your application. For example, the National Fire Protection Association code, which the National Electrical Code is a subset of, does require both kinds of interlocks when contactors are used for opposing motion. UL 508, on the other hand, requires 1 or more interlocks. And since they're so cheap and easy to do, why wouldn't you do both? It's an inexpensive way to protect your valuable equipment. Can you wire all this yourself? Sure. But why would you when you can get pre-wired reversing adapters like this that will do it for you for just a few bucks? There's a parallel wiring one for the line side and a line swapping one for the load side. They give you a nice clean solution and you don't have to worry about getting it wired correctly and messing something up. You just insert them, tighten the screws, and you're done. For the Fuji family of contactors, select Motor Controls, Fuji, and Fuji Accessories reversing kits. There's one for the line side and one for the load side. There's 3 sizes for the line side, 3 sizes for the load side, and another 3 sizes for the load side if you're using an overload. You'll see why in just a minute. This type is for setups where you're not using an overload. They're nice because they do the whole job with one molded part you just slide in, but they get in the way of adding an overload. For example, I can't add an overload here because the reversing module gets in the way. So if you are planning to use an overload, you'll need a kit like this one for the load side. The parts are flatter so they don't get in the way of the overload. Notice how the middle one sits above the other 2 and that these mount in the lower holes so the overload can mount in the upper slots. Of course, you'll have to add the aux contacts and extra wiring yourself to implement the electronic interlock with this type of contactor. One suggestion, make sure you wire your coils first. The screwdriver can't reach the terminals after everything's installed. The WEG mini contactors, on the other hand, have a really slick way of doing all of this in one fell swoop. Look under Motor Control, WEG mini contactors, WEG accessories, component type, wiring kit. Look, there's only one part number. The reason for this is the reversing kit works for all 3-pole WEG mini contactor sizes with or without an overload. Now, why are there so many posts on this module? Shouldn't there just be 3 for one contactor and 3 for the other, like we have with the Fuji part? This one has 8 leads, and this one has 10. What's that all about? Well, since the 3-pole WEG contactors have aux contacts built in, all of the wiring for the electronic interlock is built into these modules. If you look at the wiring diagram on the reversing kit documentation, it looks just like the diagram we had earlier, doesn't it? Except now, we don't have to add any aux contactors or do any of the wiring ourselves. You do need to make sure you get contactors with a normally closed aux contact. The mechanical interlock is provided by this module, which just snaps in here. If we put all of this together, don't forget the little tabs that lock the contactors together, they come with the interlock module, and add in an overload, and look at this. We have a complete reversing motor starting solution with both mechanical and electrical interlocks all in one clean, easy to set up, inexpensive configuration for the 7, 9, 12, and 16 amp 3-pole WEG mini contactors. Awesome.